We're recording.
Let's call the meeting in order, please. You want to take the roll, please?
I will. As a reminder, council needs to use their microphones for the recording. Mayor Zakowski.
Here.
Alderman Kittle.
Here.
Alderman Vries.
Here.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Here.
Alderman Volkert.
Here.
Alderperson Kraft.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
Republic for which it stands.
Your motion to adopt the agenda as proposed.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Public comments. Any public comments?
Nobody was signed in.
Oh, okay. Here, a motion to approve the consent agenda. I just want to mention that we do have a $20 donation from Roberta Johnson to the Richmond Fire and Rescue Department. So I do hear that motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved. New business, recognition of Canine Storm. Craig.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kind of waiting for the guest of honor here. Is she coming in?
There she comes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for the opportunity, but we, as you know, have a very special guest here tonight. It's a four-legged one and her two-legged partner. So just as kind of a recap, approximately 8 years ago, the Richmond Police Department began a journey to start a canine program in the city. The council at that time advised if the community supports having a canine, they'll step up and make it happen. And well, after a few fundraisers, a lot of hard work and dedication, and a tactical kilt later, we had the funds and a green light to embark on what would become our inaugural canine program. We then began to work on the department, and we asked ourselves who would be our best option to make sure this program is successful, well-respected, and who has the dedication and desire to make a life-changing commitment to our agency. Officer Katie Shivery presented excellent qualities and was chosen as the department's first canine handler. Then we met Iris. Not many people know that was her name when we got her. Deputy Chief Kaler and I were present at St. Paul PD when Katie received her partner. It was obvious that this partnership was meant to be. Katie and her new partner were inseparable from the beginning, formed a quick bond while at training. And while we wanted to get the community involved, the school district of New Richmond was asked, and our third grade students were so excited. And all of a sudden, Iris had a new name, Storm. Storm is a reference to a female from the X-Men series and also a reference to the history of New Richmond cyclone. What we didn't know was a direct reference to show Storm's personality. In hindsight, perhaps Katie wishes we should have stuck with Iris. Storm has been a staple around the PD for many years. Has had so much support from her canine coordinator, Deputy Chief Kaler in the back, her foster parent, Detective Todd Schaefer, and her chew toy, Nick Lubo. Everyone on the department has supported the program in many ways, and that's evident from the number of officers in attendance here tonight, the family of Katie, and the public. Storm has made apprehensions, searched for missing and hiding people, tracked wrongdoers through the dark, rain, and heat. She has found knives, keys, and other evidence and taken large quantities of illegal narcotics in her time out on the streets. Storm has a reputation in the drug world, and it's clearly stay out of New Richmond. Katie and Storm have worked with the county and other agencies in the area with advanced training, school safety, tactical awareness, And she's also been honored to be part of the elite training and recognition that comes with working with some of the best handlers in the nation. While Storm's career was cut a bit short, she certainly had a tremendous impact on our agency and this community. I would like to also take this opportunity to thank Katie and Storm on behalf of the members of the Police Department, the Richmond City Council, and the citizens in Richmond. I'd also like to honor and recognize them both for their commitment, dedication, and service to our citizens. You both have set the K-9 program up for success well into the future. I would also like to present Katie with a plaque tonight with a picture of Storm, and it reads, "In recognition for their commitment, dedication, and service to the citizens of New Richmond." I also have Storm's official badge that she wore while she was on duty, and we'll retire that with her tonight too. Congratulations, Katie.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Next item is extraterritorial jurisdiction CSM application 1557 County Road GG.
That's a big thing to follow. That's gonna make me cry. Okay, so G&S Land Solutions presented a extraterritorial plat review application for a certified survey map, also known as an ETJ CSM for 1557 County Road GG, which is located in Erin Prairie. The applicant is looking to subdivide their property to create one new vacant lot. And the property is subject to our ETJ CSM review because it is within 3 miles of the city. We don't, as a city, have any zoning authority because we don't have a shared boundary agreement, but we do want to review these to ensure that if they were ever to be annexed into the city, it would be compatible with our city. So we use section 117.22A to review these CSMs, which is our subdivision ordinance. So the first element is consistency with our comprehensive plan. Our future land use map guides the site for low-density residential, as you can see in your packet. And the proposed ETJ CSM is compatible with our comp plan and our future land use map, as it will just be a vacant lot as of now. The CSM can't be served by municipal sewer or water at this time. So if the applicant has any questions regarding private on-site wells or septic systems, they're advised to contact St. Croix County. As well as with the stormwater, currently no additional stormwater is required, but in the future, if they were to develop, they would be subject to DNR requirements. The site is currently accessed by County Highway GG, which is to the north, and there's a shared driveway easement for Lot 2. Again, if Lot 3 were to develop, it would need to directly access County Highway GG to the north, and St. Croix County would be responsible for providing that access to a county road. On the CSM, we require a 5-foot perimeter easement for side lots and a 10-foot easement for front and rear lots. Can you hear me? Okay. And the drainage and utility easements are consistent with our new Richmond requirements. Currently, County Highway GG is classified as a major collector and therefore requires an 80-foot right-of-way, and the right-of-way indicated on the CSM is consistent with our requirements. And then again, any further division of the lots will need to be reviewed by the City of New Richmond. So the Development Review Committee, or DRC, and Plan Commission have both reviewed this ETJ CSM application and recommend approval with one condition, that any future division of the lots will need to be reviewed and approved by the City of New Richmond. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions on this? Anybody?
I'd make a motion to approve ETJ CSM for 1557 County Road GG
One.
with the, yep.
I'll second that.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Breeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderperson Kraft.
Yes.
Motion passes. Historic District Design Guidelines Consultant Recommendation.
So back in June, we sent out an RFP for the preparation of historic district design guidelines for 3 districts that we have in the city. And the guidelines are a preservation and redevelopment management tool that help retain the historic character of a district. We received 4 applications from Pigeon Consulting, Legacy Architecture, UW Milwaukee Cultural Resource Management, and JMT, and chose to interview 3 of the consultants on July 26th and 27th of last month. Their estimates for the budget came in between $27,250 and $28,000. As a background, our West Side Historic District was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1988, and our most recent design guidelines for that district were in 2000, so they're in need of an update. Our most recent historic districts that were added were the East Side Historic District, which has 18 contributing buildings, and our Commercial Historic District, which has 35 contributing buildings. And these were both added within the past year to the city. So with this project, all 3 districts will have new and updated design guidelines. The funding for this project is from the Wisconsin Historical Society Certified Local Government Grant, which is a reimbursable grant that we were awarded back in February of 2023 for $28,000. The project has to be completed by July 29th of 2024, and it will include illustrations and text to interpret our guidelines, which are within our municipal code. The project is going to include lots of public engagement from our Historic Preservation Commission, property owners, and city staff. So the recommendation is, following our proposals and interviews, is to recommend selecting Pigeon Consulting as the project consultant for a total not to exceed $28,000. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Why did you pick that specific company if they're all pretty close?
Yeah, they were all close in budget, so that wasn't necessarily a concern. But we enjoyed their passion for the project. They were super excited. Their proximity, they're based out of St. Paul, so they're excited to come and spend a lot of time here and will be accessible for meetings. And then their background, they had a very strong background doing similar projects in Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Questions?
No, I'd like to make a motion to approve Pigeon Consulting for the grant.
I'll second it.
Further discussion?
Yeah, who wrote to get this grant? Is that you, Noah?
So the application was submitted by Katrina Berg, and then we have received this in the past as well. So this is the 3rd or 4th time we've received this grant. So so Katrina did the bulk of the work on that one.
And the grant was for $28,000?
It was, yeah, and 100%, so there's no match required, which is very rare for most
And
grants
the,
that we receive.
and the bid was exactly $28,000?
Yeah, so all of the applicants would know ahead of time actually what the budgeted amount was, so.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderperson Kraft?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Motion passes. 2023 second quarter financial report, Rayanne.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can we go to the slide 3? Yep. So in your packet is the second quarter financial report for mainly the general fund and our debt service fund. Tonight, I'm just going to highlight some of the main drivers of both revenues and expenditures that we've seen through second quarter of this year. And then if there's any questions, feel free to ask those throughout or at the end as well. But as of June 30th, our total revenues were approximately 62% of budget, or just over $5 million. Some of the major drivers for the favorable revenue was due, and you'll see at the very bottom, which is called transfers in of $457,000. That was due to the closure of tax increment District 8 on the north end of town, and that was the portion that was attributable to the city's portion of that tax increment district. So that once a tax increment district closes, each jurisdiction is dispersed the funds that remain in that district. So based upon their current mill rate in place. And so the school district of New Richmond, Northwoods Technical College, and St. Croix County received shares of that closure as well in June of this year. Also, interest revenue due to the favorable market conditions has certainly exceeded what our budgetary amount is, and that's that third line item up from the bottom, which is investment income, which is far exceeding what our budget is to date. Areas of other notable revenue driven is our building and inspection fees revenue, which is still trending slightly above budget at $5,000 above budget, or 4.5%. That is a little bit lower though than last year. However, we did plan for that, and then we did lower our budgeted amount in that. So we are certainly on track to meet our budget in 2023 for building and permit revenues. So those are really the main kind of aspects from revenue. We're on a good pace on the revenue and are above our budget, really mainly driven by the investment income as well as the closure of tax increment District 8. When we look at expenditures through second quarter, our total expenditures as of June 30th were $4.2 million, or 52.5% of the budget. Typically at mid-year, can you go to the next slide, Christy? Typically at mid-year, where we would look at our expenditures to track, is about 50%. Again, that's just, an estimate of where we would like to be. That's a good indicator that we're on target to meet our budget for the end of the year. Typically, at second quarter, there are expenses that we've fully incurred on the first half of the year. So as we continue to progress through the quarters, they will equalize out and trend out. One of those examples are insurance payments, which are paid up front, and also our ambulance services. Those are paid to New Richmond Ambulance Service up front at the beginning of the year as well. We did have some notable variances, however, through second quarter for expenditures, and I just want to highlight some of those. At this point, though, however, the notable variances to budget are offset by the favorable variances in revenue, and we would anticipate that trend to continue through the end of the year as well. But some of the variance drivers on expenses would include snow removal. Again, during that winter season that was incredibly brutal this past year, we incurred several instances of having overtime related to removing snow, which accounted for $28,000 in a variance. Plow repairs were also finalized in first quarter, which was $37,000. Again, these will be unfavorable variances to the budget throughout the year. However, we have revenue and favorable spending in other places of the budget that will help offset those overruns through the end of the year. Additionally, there was a retirement in the streets department, which resulted in a medical reserve account payout at the end of retirement. We had expenses associated with storms, medical bills of $8,000, and then some repairs to machinery and equipment totaling just over $5,000. We also finalized the repairs to the front entrance of the Civic Center during the second quarter of this year, which shows as an expense line, but that is offset by the insurance recoveries that we were able to obtain for the repairs of that building as well. So you'll see it as a revenue coming in, and then it's also an expense going out. Go to the next slide. Again, several years ago, the fire department is accounted for as a special revenue fund. However, the city levies for the expenses associated with the fire department, so we highlight it as part of our general fund overview. The fire department through the second quarter had revenues of just over $300,000. And if you go to the next slide, had expenses of just under $300,000, so have a positive variance there as well. And then lastly, our debt expenditures through the end of second quarter, our total payments were just over $1.7 million. Our total obligations for this year are just over $2.8 million. So we have expended or paid those obligations of just over 50% of those obligations. So all in all, through second quarter, we are in a favorable position to budget. Again, as we've kind of made projections out in preparation of our discussion for the 2024 budget, we see the trend from a revenue perspective continue to be on target, and expenditures to be able to end in a positive position too for the end of the year, barring any unforeseen circumstances that arise in third or fourth quarter. That is all that I have this evening, unless there are questions associated with the report.
I think the one thing that I'd like to see on the general obligation debt, that we're quite a ways into getting our general obligation debt over the last many years, starting in 2012.
Any other questions? Not, thank you. Next item is authorization to solicit bids for SCADA dam controls. Oh, excuse me, authorization to post requests for proposals for public works, buildings, and shops.
So this item was discussed by the Utility Commission at their most recent meeting. If you recall, earlier this spring, both the Utility Commission and the Council discussed different options that would address some of our facility needs for public works, as well as electric and water, all up at our campus on the north end of Richmond. At that time, there had been a preferred option identified by the Council and Commission, and we had voted to include that in the 2024 capital improvement plan. What staff are seeking this evening is authorization to publish a request for proposals. This would go to local engineering consultants who would be interested in helping us with the design for that building. So far to date, we've only just shown very conceptual block drawings of this is where an addition would go and that sort of thing. This would be to actually have the construction documents that would be put out for actual bidding. So the actual RFP, if it was published, we would bring forward those proposals to both the Utility Commission, and they would come back to the Council later on this year. And if a contract was then awarded, that firm would work on this over the winter months. The recommendation from the Utility Commission at their meeting last week was to authorize staff to proceed with publishing the RFP for the public works and utility buildings. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for proposal.
Questions?
Would the engineering firm be responsible for the bids?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Would the engineering firm be responsible for doing all the bids and figuring out all the bids?
Yep, typically
That's part of it.
they work as with the bid opening, make sure that everything's kind of apples to apples comparison, that nothing was missed. So typically they'll be involved with the bid opening as well when we bid out for construction, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
But this, just to clarify, this, what we're approving tonight is just to publish the RFP for design
Correct.
and architectural.
Yes.
Okay.
Nothing else? You want to take the roll, please?
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderperson Kraft,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Passes. Next item, authorization to solicit bids for the SCADA dam controls.
So this item was reviewed most recently by the Public Works Committee. Again, this item was identified in the capital improvement plan. Staff are just seeking authorization to solicit bids. Bids would have to come back to the council at a later date. This would be for installation of SCADA hardware at the Mill Pond Dam. And really this allows us to have remote monitoring and control of the dam. And we would expect the life expectancy of that equipment to last 15 to 20 years. We feel it's very valuable addition to our system. This has been identified for staff for a few years. It is a significant cost, but the dam itself is aging. We know that we've had flooding issues in the past, and to be able to remotely operate that and to have that real-time data is extremely valuable. So again, with this, the Public Works Committee recommended authorizing staff to solicit bids. Again, we would bring those bids back to the council.
Do you hear a motion to approve the SCADA dam controls?
I'll make a motion to approve the solicitation of bids for the SCADA hardware at the dam as outlined in the memo.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Roll, please.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderperson Kraft,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Motion passes. 1993 John Deere grader replacement.
So this item was also discussed by the Public Works Committee at their last meeting. The Public Works Department has a John Deere grader from 1993. The Public Works Committee earlier this year discussed that there may be advantages to purchasing a used grader, just given the use and really more the seasonality for it, as compared to purchasing a brand new one. So staff have been looking on the used market to see, obviously we don't want to purchase another municipality's headache that's going to cause us issues, but looking to see where these are running. Now in terms of the budgeted amount in the 2023 CIP, we had included an estimate of $200,000. What we're seeing on the market right now is that the costs are ranging from about $209,000 to $229,000. And what the Public Works Committee and staff discussed at their last meeting was setting a not-to-exceed amount for this equipment, a not-to-exceed amount of $230,000 for a replacement grader. Again, this would be used. That way, if staff do come across one at auction, they don't have to wait a whole month to come back. And if the budget amount is $200,000 and we find one that's above $200,000, we don't want to be purchasing something without council authorization. So wanted to make sure that the council was comfortable with staff doing that with a not to exceed amount of $230,000.
How much is a new one?
A new one, you're gonna be looking at anywhere between 350, 400, depending on equipment, the exact specs. So
Are we going to keep the old one, or are we going to auction that off, or?
the current 1993 one would be declared surplus.
I'll make a motion to approve not to exceed $230,000 for a replacement.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Not? Take the roll, please.
Alderperson Kraft,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, library building project, professional services contract with ISG.
So earlier this summer, the city council voted to continue to move forward with next steps with the library building project. At our most recent meeting, the council directed staff to finalize and execute a pre-development agreement with 360 Real Estate Solutions for the mixed-use concept. One of our next steps is to move into final engineering and design and soliciting final feedback from the community in the coming months, and moving forward towards a groundbreaking in 2024 for a new mixed-use library. And so included in the packet this evening is a proposal from ISG, who did the preliminary design work for the project. And you can see in terms of their scope of work, this includes the civil engineering, architecture, mechanical engineering for HVAC and plumbing, the technology design for interior of the building, interior design, all of the permitting, as well as the construction administration. This is basically takes us through the process this fall of having public engagement opportunities for the community, for library staff and patrons. This goes through plan commission approval for the actual building plans and actually getting state-approved building plans and permit. In that construction administration, that's actually their attendance. If the project is bid out and awarded to a general contractor, similar to Alderman Kittle's question earlier on the public works and utility buildings, they would be involved with the actual bidding, but also then attending those weekly or bi-weekly construction meetings. So if there's questions from what the plans call for versus a question that arises in the field with the contractor. So ISG brings very diverse staff. They have, and you can see their bios included in the proposal. So again, at this point, they don't see a need to contract or subcontract out for this work. They do all their work in-house. So on their team, they have folks experienced in all these different facets. And if the council voted this evening to proceed, we would have to finalize the actual contract with legal counsel. It is a sizable contract, and so we want to make sure that it's agreeable to both parties. We've also discussed having some very set deadlines in there so that if deadlines are missed, there are repercussions for that. So that as we move forward with our plans, we want to have very clear benchmarks to know when the plans are going to be finalized, when we intend to bid the project out, and that it isn't 2 months past a deadline and there's no penalty for that. So happy to answer any questions that you might have on the proposal from ISG.
I would make a motion to approve the ISG as the firm that we're going to go with for professional services.
We hear a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I think this is something we should discuss. I mean, this is a fair amount of money. I think this is something we should discuss, as this is a fair amount of money in moving forward with this library. I first want to say I am definitely in favor of moving forward with this library. But this is going to be that next step, and I think it's really a necessary next step for us to come up with numbers of what this library is going to cost. We've thrown out numbers. We really don't have a handle yet on what kind of numbers we have. This will allow us to really hone in on what those numbers are going to be for the library.
Noah, do you anticipate that we'll have a pretty good idea after all of the architectural services, structural, mechanical, engineering, all of that stuff is completed, that we know, like, if you were to build the library according to the specifications that we laid out, this is going to be the cost? I mean, if you move forward with the library in a reasonable amount of time, 20 years from now, obviously, the library is going to cost a little bit more, but I mean,
Right.
do we anticipate that's going to be a deliverable of the work that ISG is doing?
We will. So, earlier this year, we worked with Borton Construction. They took basically the preliminary renderings and said,
Yep.
this is what it would cost you to build today. Now, as part of that, they also identified, here's areas that you could bring that cost down in terms of finishes, in terms of just saying kind of good, better, best. And so as part of our community engagement meetings in the fall, work with the library board, with library staff, really looking at where do you have the best return on your investment. You may spend more of your budget on the exterior of the building. It might look really nice, but that means you have less money to work with on the interior of the building and vice versa. And does it make sense to have higher quality finishes or higher quality furniture? And at the same time, what about the HVAC system? Is that a better investment for us in those areas? So certainly, not only would we have our final actual construction drawings and final design, but we would also have up-to-date numbers as well. So there may be something that already since this spring, costs may have gone up or down in a certain area, especially when we look at just when it comes to things like product availability. There might be something that we hear from the community and from staff, it'd be great to have that, and they might say, we could order that today and it'll come in 12 to 18 months, where
Right.
if you go with this other one, you could have it tomorrow. So that would certainly be part of those conversations as well. We don't want to come up with a final design and get everybody excited, and then we say, oh, but if you want those things, you're going to actually postpone construction because it's going to take a long time to arrive. So certainly the cost will be a key driving component for this next phase.
So by approving the $661,000, which is probably, I think you've said, the largest investment the city's ever made towards the building of a new library, which is, I think, a pretty big deal. I know obviously I serve in the library board and there's huge support here. What are the next steps? So once we approve this, or if we make a decision to approve, they start the engineering, they start the architectural, the schematics and et cetera. What would be the next step? I mean, I know public engagement and getting people really in the community informed about the project, but what would be the next step? Would it be groundbreaking once we've kind of passed the public engagement portion?
Yeah, so right now we're working towards a groundbreaking in the spring of '24.
Okay.
And so, working backwards from there, we would hope to actually bid the project out over the winter months and have a general contractor selected. So really for the design portion, that really kind of goes from now to the end of the calendar year. So
Okay.
this fall, we would have very intensive public engagement. We'd bring forward the site plan to the Plan Commission for approval. So we would hope to have state-approved plans ready to bid out in the late winter and really targeting that spring groundbreaking. And now, a lot of moving pieces, obviously, a lot of work to do. So that may sound overly simplistic to say we're just going to break ground in the spring.
Simple. That's what I was looking
So
for.
a lot of work to be done, but that is what we're targeting. And then in terms of construction, likely looking at completion date sometime in late 2025, just given the size and scope of the project.
So
So,
as part of the memo, just one more thing I want to mention in case the people that are in the audience today haven't read it. The $661,000+ is going to be paid for utilizing impact fees, which is revenue that we've already collected or anticipate collecting, and then library investment funds, which we've been setting aside for a number of years and obviously have grown over the years.
Right.
So we're not trying to generate any additional revenue, or we don't have to increase any kind of tax or anything like that to pay for this.
Correct. So we have funds that have really been earmarked for this for several years now. So at this time, in order to proceed with final engineering and design, that component itself does not require the city to borrow. Now, when it comes to a point of actually bidding this out for construction, we will
Yes.
have more detailed financial strategy of the various sources of funds and what we expect the building's going to cost, what the terms of borrowing would be, what grants we've received by that time as well.
Okay.
So, but for this portion of the work, yes, we'd be utilizing both impact fees and investments that have been set aside and have been growing slightly just based on interest. So
360's on the same timeline as us?
they are, and they would have their own separate contract for the apartments up above and for the standalone building. So again, this is the.
ISG.
No, I'm talking about 360 because I know this is ISG, but
Okay.
360 is our partner in this.
Yeah, so they would be working with ISG as well, and obviously, those designs go hand in hand. So if we're doing something significantly different on the first floor, that impacts what they can do up above, and vice versa. But they would also have their own separate contract for that design. So also to be clear, the city is not paying for the design, for the floor plans, for apartments, or for the townhome building adjacent to the property. So. But there are advantages to being on the same page and working with that same group rather than having meetings and we have our engineer at the table, they have their engineer at the table, folks disagree on things, but working with the same one, but just under separate contracts.
So without this being done, we would never know how much anything costs. To get any kind of accurate assumption of what it's gonna cost in the future, we need all this information to be
Well-
paid for and done.
So our initial estimates were based off of the preliminary renderings. Now, those aren't biddable. You can't give those plans
No.
to a contractor and say, build this for me.
No,
Now, there's preliminary floor plans, you have a color rendering of the outside of the building, what it would look like, but you really can't give those to a contractor to say, what is this gonna cost?
Yeah.
They can factor in some initial estimates based on other similar sized projects, but really until you have a final design and you know what you're actually bidding out, you're gonna see a wide range of, again, what type of HVAC system is. Well, that
Right.
could be $1 million difference, just depending on what you're actually requesting.
without this information, we would have no idea what the cost is.
Right.
I mean, we'll have an idea, but not a very
Right.
accurate idea.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Tom, you got some?
So their actual estimates, we wouldn't publish. Now, we will give, in terms of our frequently asked questions, we've given just a preliminary ballpark number, but not the approximate. So just for the library itself, we're forecasting a $14 to $16 million project just for the library. With the apartments, it's about a $30 million investment in downtown. But we wouldn't actually, because some of those numbers are from local subs, we wouldn't want to show to the public, Simon Electric quoted us this amount, and then when we go to final design, other contractors could see what they were bidding. That's what we hope for, yeah. Correct, yeah.
Should we take more time and discussion on this at a later date, or how do you feel?
No, I think we gotta, if we're gonna move forward with this library, we gotta start getting this information to be able to get to the public. Right now, it's hard to discuss really what the numbers are gonna be and how that's gonna affect our taxes. 20 years we've been trying to build a new library, and we've talked about it and put it in the back burner because other things. I really think it's time that we move forward and get some actual numbers that can be shared with the public. And I think Noah's right, we're gonna have some major public engagement with residents and citizens. Want to hear from them as far as what their thoughts are moving forward with this new library.
Also, then we can start applying for grants out there to help build this library then too, so we can start the ball moving on this. We've been talking, like you said, of 20 years on this. Now we're down to the brass tacks of actually moving forward.
And we as a council have had quite a bit of discussion about this and what we're gonna do and are we gonna proceed? And we've always agreed on we're gonna proceed. So we had a special work session basically just for this a month ago, and we kind of said we're gonna proceed. I did.
There's a motion and a second.
Other discussion? Take the roll, please.
Ron, you okay with what we're doing here?
I'm fine.
Okay, just want to be sure. Thank you.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Breeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderperson Kraft.
Yes.
Motion passes. We can start looking forward to maybe a library. Appointment process for representatives on St. Croix EDC Loan Review Committee.
So this item tonight, we're just going to be discussing process. We're not actually making any appointment on this particular item. The city of Richmond has one member who is appointed to serve on the St. Croix EDC Loan Review Committee. This is a 3-year term. Currently, Josh Linseth from Wisconsin Credit Union represents the city on that committee. He's completing his term at the end of this calendar year, so we do have a few months, but we wanted to bring this forward. Typically, when we have a board and commission vacancy, we have an application form. This really isn't a city board. It's really at the discretion of the council of how you want to go about appointing someone. Now, historically, this has been someone with a finance background. So prior to Josh, we had Scott Jones from RCU. Some of you may know Scott. But it's not to say that you have to have someone who works in finance necessarily on that. So it could be someone with a business background, it could be a council member, it could be just a citizen at large. Really just wanted to bring it to your attention this evening. Bill Rubin from the St. Croix EDC had reached out and just said, hey, as a reminder, you guys have to come up with a name for us before the end of the year. And so really wanted to bring it forward to you tonight, really just for discussion purposes. Would you like us as staff to put it out there in the community for anybody to apply? Do you want us to directly solicit names from local financial institutions? Would you like this to be a member of Ford New Richmond? Would you like it to be a council member? So again, no decision needed tonight, not looking to actually appoint a certain name, but just wanted to discuss more from a process standpoint with you, how you'd like to fill that appointment.
I feel like the process that we've been utilizing to fill vacant board and commission, I know this isn't a board or commission, but I feel like that's been pretty successful. I mean, we're soliciting that there's a vacancy. We're asking interested individuals to apply. So that's putting in a little bit of effort on their end to say, yep, maybe I'm passionate about this, or passionate about economic development, or whatever it may be. So I think that that's been successful. I don't necessarily think we need to do something different. I would not be against us directly soliciting financial institutions, but I do think those individuals have to go through the application process like we have for the other boards and commissions. I just think it's really a nice way to vet not only qualifications, but potentially their interest and how engaged they're going to be over the course of the term.
Terry, I agree with you. Is that a motion?
That sounds, yeah, it was totally a motion.
Michelle's got it.
I don't think we need a motion, but that just in general, the direction, I mean, that's kind of what I've been comfortable with.
And I'm comfortable with staff kind of getting us the names also, whether it's through the same process as we're doing with other commissions. But you guys do a good job to get us names that are capable and good for the job.
I think we should contact all the financial places in town and just let them know that this is out there, but take anybody's, like Carrie said.
Have we had any individuals say that they're interested from Forward New Richmond? It feels like that would be like a nice kind of synergy between
Yeah, we
the
haven't,
two.
Fort New Richmond will have their next meeting this week. We haven't, so we can certainly share it with them if any of them are interested. I would say that historically, a lot of people don't know a whole lot about the St. Croix EDC Loan Review Committee.
Okay.
I don't recall when Josh was appointed, if it went to the council or if how that appointment process was made at the time. But certainly, I think following our board and commission appointment process, we may also have some other folks who reach out who, even if they aren't appointed to this loan review committee, might have interest in other boards and committees.
Yeah.
So whether it be Ford New Richmond or the CDA or any other group. So yeah, staff can certainly proceed, and hopefully we can bring some applications forward to you this fall, and they'll be ready to be appointed and take over starting in January.
Guess we have a motion and a second.
Is this a motion?
Really not motionable, is it?
We don't have to have a formal motion on it.
Oh, okay.
I made notes, though.
Yeah, I mean, we'll make sure it's reflected in the minutes and.
Okay, board and commission appointments. I'm looking at, on the Ford New Richmond, I'm gonna move Carrie Borgstrom to the chair, since, Mike is not on the council anymore. And Pete Kling would be the vice chair. And I'm gonna have Pete Vries be the council representative on Ford New Richmond. And then looking at the new alderperson would be on ambulance, public safety, and would be on housing. Craig, I want to have 3 positions, so Craig is going to give up that position to the new alderperson. So those are the things tonight.
Does or he doesn't give that up? What did you say Craig has to give it up or doesn't?
No, I
give it
said
up?
I talked to Jim this afternoon.
Yeah, I
and
talked to him. Yeah,
He would only, whoever is the new board person would only have two different boards to be on,
Gotcha.
so I
so
said I
then
would
he'll have to
volunteer
be
to
on the 3 then.
be off that.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman Vries,
Yes,
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes,
Alderperson Kraft,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
I should mention one thing. Pete's coming off the ambulance, and that's the position that the new person will have. Okay, city council president appointment. What we're gonna do, we're gonna have a paper ballot, and everybody's got them in front of you. Write down who your candidate would be for the council president. No. But write down who you would want as council president.
I think you should have nominations, shouldn't you?
I think we should. We've always done that.
We can do it either way.
I think we should have nominations.
So the council can still do a written ballot, but if you want to do written nominations just to see who's interested in serving, but then you could still cast your vote
Yep.
in writing if you'd like.
So
but-
do oral nominations and then written?
Yeah, yep, that'd be
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, we'll go like, who wants to be council president? I guess that's the best way. Okay,
I nominate.
I'll second that.
any further discussion? I guess, do you want to have written, or, I guess we don't have to have it written.
Vote on
if
it.
it's-
Yeah, or I guess if you'd want to just call and see if there's any other nominations.
Yeah, that's what I just asked, did anybody else want to be nominated? Got a motion and second. Take the roll.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderperson Kraft,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Motion passes. Appointment for District 4 Alderperson. We have 3 candidates, and I think they'd like to come up and speak for, say something about why they want to be the alderperson?
Yeah, so the council has received the applications from each of the 3 individuals who have expressed interest in the District 4 alderperson. And again, we have a vacancy following the resignation of Mike Mantello after he moved outside of the district. So staff noticed the vacancy in the Star Observer, as well as on our website or social media. We contacted all of our current board and commission members as well to make them aware. And in terms of our eligibility requirements, the alderperson must be at least 18 years of age. They have to be a U.S. citizen, a qualified voter, and a resident of District 4. And this individual would serve for the remainder of the term. So this, if appointed this evening, they would serve as the District 4 alderperson through April of 2025. And so we have 3 applicants. They were Scotty Ard, Trevor Swanson, and Greg Gartner. And just want to thank all 3 of them for expressing interest in serving the community in that role. And we wanted to give all of them an opportunity if they would like to come up for a few minutes to the podium and introduce themselves. And then if the council, if any of you have questions you'd like to ask them, you can certainly do so. And then after that, there would be a vote. And if a majority is cast for any one of the candidates, they would be then elected. So that we do have ballots that should be set up by you. So we'll get to those a little later. But with that, I don't know if anyone wants to go first.
I think we'll
but,
just start out in the order we had them here, so Scotty can start out.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, residents, and those watching. As most of you know, I have been a member of the City Council previously, as well as a County Board Supervisor and Vice Chair of Administration for St. Croix County. I bring with me a great deal of history and experience with the City of New Richmond and with the actions of the City of New Richmond, which also include the building of the library. As a former member of the Library Board, I can tell you the tireless hours that everyone has put into this project, and it is time to bring it home. I am here to represent the citizens of District 4 as well as the residents of the city of New Richmond. As a council member, it is not enough to just take a seat. You have to be involved. You have to know the issues. That you need to know your municipal code as well as state statute. This is how you get things done. Everything is done by the word of the law. Our ordinances guide us and compel us within city businesses to get the work done appropriately. Every decision that is made on a city council is made because it is based in law, be that statute, ordinance, or case law. Having that knowledge and the experience that I bring, I do believe, will aid and assist this current council in making great decisions and bringing this community closer together, being more informed, educated on the issues, and putting an end to the false and misleading information that has been flooding social media regarding actions of the council. Any questions?
I do. So as you mentioned, you've been on the city council previously and also a county board member. How would those two positions help you as being a council member again? Those experiences?
Having all of the knowledge gained and the experiences, not to mention the contacts, not only on a municipal level, but the county level and the state level, as well as my own career involves me in federal as well. So I'm quite familiar with all levels of government, but the experience on county, anything that the county does affects every town, village, and municipality in that county. And so knowing the movements, the policies, and the procedures in the way that the county board and its committees and commissions make their decisions and how it will affect the city of New Richmond, extraordinarily valuable. And for someone who knows how to, say, get into the meat of a topic and understand what's happening, to me, that's invaluable.
Another question I have, you just mentioned that you're pretty interested in moving the library forward. Are there any other issues that you are interested in pursuing that's become before the council recently?
Certainly, I'd like to see a greater emphasis and an embracing of smart growth within the city of New Richmond. We have done a significant amount of work in comprehensive planning. We have done a phenomenal job in parks and trails, in creating environmental and recreational and aesthetic values in this community that make it extraordinary. My fear going forward with the amount of building that has taken place is that we're not being wise in our land use. And it hasn't gone so far that we can't make changes that will make New Richmond better as we grow. The biggest comment that I hear and that I see in the surveys, people love New Richmond, but they want that small town environment. And that's a balancing act, and it has to be done with smart planning.
Thank you.
Welcome. Anyone else?
Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Trevor?
Well, thank you for your consideration here. I didn't prepare a great speech or anything. Thank you to everyone here. But I felt compelled to step forward and put myself in for this position, primarily because I have a family here. I've lived in New Richmond pretty much my entire life. I just want to be a part of it. I haven't done a good job of that in the past, and I would very much like to on that track just to be a better part of this community. I'd be happy to hear any questions from you, though.
Yeah, I know this was something that was asked as part of the application process, but what particularly interests you about serving in the capacity of alderman for District 4?
I've been more aware over the last 7 or 8 years as my kids are starting to grow up of generally politics, but I've never focused on what's going on around me. And I just realized that that's probably more important. And I know that this is kind of a jump into the deep end sort of way of getting yourself involved in your community, but I definitely see it as an opportunity to both do that, but then help the people in the districts I'm in and the people in Richmond.
By not being involved previously, is that an asset or is that a liability?
I think in a lot of ways, to be very frank, it's a liability. I have a steep learning curve that I would need to approach, and I don't know what I can do until I try to do it, but I find that I can do it. And so the opportunity before me is just looking at everything as it comes, doing a lot of that research I need to be more involved with and be more aware of. And that's something I know I can do. I do that all the time, but it ends up, until I go to do it, I don't know that I can do it.
Well, I very much appreciate that you put in.
Thank you.
I don't think that prior experience really matters. I mean, we have people sitting up here right now that had no prior experience when they were elected to this position, myself included. Looking at others that I don't think had any prior experience. So I don't think that's
I wouldn't say there aren't pluses to it either, but I think it would be very important to acknowledge that I understand that there would be challenges for me leading up to,
challenges
becoming
for
more
all of
involved.
us. There were challenges for myself, and I'm still taking on.
What are you talking about? Still are.
Any other questions?
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Greg?
Have me. I'm Greg Gartner, 420 East Fifth Street. I've lived in New Richmond since 1966. Except for a few years when I was gone to college, I've been around here. I have 47 years of experience working in the hospital, in town here in other areas. I have a wife of 44 years, 4 sons and married sons, 10 grandchildren, all live in the Richmond area. When I moved to Richmond, the population was about 4,000, I think. We now have 3,600 students in our school system. The city has grown. I think the city has been really maintained well. I think we have a lot of great things. And I have no agenda when I come to this position, other than I have to say, I'd really like to see that library. I have quite a few years' experience on the school board. And I'd really like to see that done. There are so many wonderful things about New Richmond. Everywhere you look, there's great things. Growth issues all the way around us. We have many things to keep planning. You're talking about your budgets, I would like to, whenever I take on a position like this, or when you're investigating one of these positions, I take an open mind on everything. When some big issue comes, I believe you have to come in without an agenda. You have to look at everything. You have to study it, and then you can make a very educated decision. Decisions that you make here, you've talked about many of them, that you're talking 10, 15 years down the line. You have to really think about those decisions. You have to really understand what the issues are. So, having said that, that's pretty much my philosophy. Any questions? I'm happy to entertain any questions or anything that you have. Anybody?
You mentioned your experience on the New Richmond School Board. Obviously, that a lot of similarities there with kind of how the school board operates and how the city council operates. So your engagement with students and parents is probably going to look a little bit different than what your engagement would look like with your residents. So just tell me how you would work to engage with the constituents of District 4.
Well, I always have an open door policy. I'm happy to talk to anybody. And as you know, as alder people, mayor, that you get a lot of people that want to talk to you. Everybody's opinion matters. We have to look at everybody's opinion, and we have to do that. And I am happy to listen to anybody. And I can learn something from everybody, you know? Every time I go to a meeting, a school board meeting or something else, the people around me teach me something. And all of you people, I am, you know, it's just listening to people, working, doing the investigation to make sure you understand what the thing is. Talk with people and explain why are we doing this decision? Why do we?
Thank you.
Greg, being on the school board, and if you were on the city council, there could potentially be some conflict of interest between the two because we have done business in the past. How would you deal with that?
Well, if there's an issue that's just paramount, I'd have to recuse myself and abstain. So before I even applied, I did talk to many people, do as much due diligence as I could to be sure, because I had those same concerns. So WASB, the Wisconsin School Board Association, got information from them, school attorney, the superintendent. I talked to the administrator quite a bit about it. And doesn't appear to be there's no legal issue or reason that I can't do it at all. If there is an issue, you'd have to recuse yourself. If there was some specific one, should be very, very seldom. So, yeah.
And I'd like to make a comment on that. Greg, of course, you've been on the school board for many years. And a job well done. And I'm going to tell you that I voted for you every time so far. So whenever your name's on that ballot, I check it. But I do have a couple of, I know we have two major issues coming up that need to be addressed with the city and the school district.
Yes.
And we had one recent matter where someone was representing both sides of an issue. And the public did not receive that very well at all. I don't think I'd like to put you in that potential conflict of interest position, serving on both the school board and city council at the same time. And you mentioned, if there's a problem, I would have to excuse myself. What that does is that immediately cuts us down to 5 votes instead of 6. Cuts us down to 5 voices instead of 6.
I think you can
Both.
still use your voice. You know, I think you can still offer your opinions and stuff, but it's just the vote.
No,
yeah.
if you're going to excuse yourself, you cannot get involved in the discussion.
Okay.
I just think that I don't like, with the big issues that we have coming forward, I would like to have a full council sitting up here without somebody. Again, I voted for you every time, and but that's my issue, Greg.
Sure.
Any other questions? Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
You want to write your ballots and give them to me then?
Just a comment, your ballot's up there. Now, these cannot be anonymous, so you should have a ballot that actually has your name on it.
Yeah, ballot
So-
that had your name on it.
Where are we giving them to? Jim? Mayor?
Yeah, that's fine.
I have 3 votes for Greg and 2 for Trevor. So Greg will be the new alderperson in District 4.
Congratulations.
Everyone for.
Yeah, thank you for
applying.
coming, and
Appreciate it.
thank you for putting your names in.
Does Greg get to take his seat up here tonight, or is that something that, do we have to do the swearing in and all of that stuff?
We're
first?
gonna find out right now if Greg wants, No, if Greg wants to be in on the closed session, we're going to take a little break in before that. Then you can be sworn in now, but if you want to wait until the next meeting. Okay, that's fine then. Okay.
Sorry, I was just so excited to have someone else up here.
You been lonely over there?
It feels different over here on this end.
Any communication or miscellaneous?
I mean, I feel like you all would be disappointed if there wasn't. On August 25th, the post office dedication will take place at 11 a.m. at the post office, and that is the renaming of the post office. So all are welcome. We'll be sure to send invites to city council staff, and then it'll be on Facebook and our website. The rain location is right here in this room, so August 25th at 11 a.m. regardless, and it's going to be a really neat thing for our community, so I hope people can participate. I think the mayor will be there to say a few words, so you don't want to miss that. And then also, just so this is memorialized on YouTube forever, tonight, you're not allowed to sing. It's Christy's birthday. So be sure to be excited that you're sharing this special night with her. I did offer for her to take the night off, but she just really wanted to be with all of us. I'm
Happy
making sure her
birthday,
family
Christy.
hears that she picked us over them.
Happy birthday, Christy. Thanks for being loyal to the council.
Yes,
I have something
very
also.
loyal.
I have something also, Mayor. When we had our national night out at St. Andrew's Place a week ago Tuesday, and it was awesome, well attended. We had 40 neighbors there, and we had the police and the EMS there. We were lucky enough to be the last group, so the police and EMS had to split up. There were so many places to go. Last one, they were all able to come to our place. On the website?
Lots. Yep. There's lots of pictures on Facebook, and there'll be a recap in the newsletter coming out. I know. You stop by, and someone will show you around.
Anything else? No.
I don't want to know.
And I just, a couple upcoming events I just wanted to remind the council of. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, there's a dedication ceremony for Habitat for Humanity, celebrating the completion of their newest build in New Richmond. So the address is 1135 Rich River Way. It's near Grayton Park. Some of you have either attended the groundbreaking or toured the other builds that they've done. And their next build will actually be in Ellsworth. So this will be their last build in New Richmond for the short term, but they still do own additional lots here in New Richmond. So tomorrow at 3 o'clock, they'll have a small program, and then they'll have tours of the house if you'd like to check it out. They're just doing some final touches and finishes yet. And then next week, there will be a ribbon cutting ceremony for the Freedom Park Trail. That's being organized by VFW Post 10818 and the New Richmond Chamber of Commerce. I'll email you specific details on that if you're interested in attending.
Anything else? If not, we're going to go into closed session per state statute 19.851G. I'd hear a motion to go, or
I make a
want to take the
motion
roll?
to go into closed session.
Go into closed session.
I'll
The
second it.
motion, second. Okay.
Roll, please.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderperson Kraft,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
We're in closed session. Anybody want to take a break quick?